Hi, it's me and today I'm here to talk about my September wrap-up. So these are all the books that I read in the month of September, which was also a couple-a-thon month. I have reading vlogs for the entire month up on my channel as well. So I'll leave links up there as things happen so you can go check out more information about these books. And yeah, that's all for an intro. So let's immediately get into the stats. I read a total of 10 books this month, which amounted to 3,574 pages, which is an average of 275.4 pages per book, an average of 119.13 pages per day. Of those books that I read, I owned 4. 3 were ebooks, 2 were galleys from NetGalley, and 1 was a library book. And for star ratings, we have a bit all over the place. You have 1 1-star, 1 2-star, 1 3-star, 4 4-stars, and 3 5 stars, which amounts to an average rating of 3.7, which is really high, and I'm really happy with that. And then for age range, I have 3 young adult books and 7 adult books. And for genre, we have 1 mystery thriller, 1 graphic novel, 1 historical fiction, 6 contemporaries, and 1 horror novel. Okay, so now that we have gotten out of the stats, let's actually talk about the books that I read. The first book that I read in the month of September is The Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which I gave 5 stars to. This is the third and final book in the Inheritance Games trilogy, and I really enjoyed the first 2 books when I read them early in the year. I believe I read book 1 in January and book 2 in February, but I really enjoyed those books. I was very excited to get to this conclusion of the series. So of course, like when it came out, I picked it up and read it, and I really enjoyed this one. I think this is definitely my favorite in the series. It did have a little bit of a rough start for me. Like in the beginning, I wasn't convinced on what was happening. There was a new character introduced that I didn't really like their part in the story of. But then as things kept happening and certain things were revealed, and you know, spoilery details, I ended up really loving this book. I thought that character I didn't really like, what role they played in the story. We learned so many things about them, things shifted, and I liked what they ended up representing in the story. I really liked the direction the mystery went in. I really think this was just even more intenser than the second book. I feel like the series does a great job at kind of like upping the antics each book. This was definitely key for that, and I think this also was a perfect conclusion to this trilogy. I feel like every character ended up in a place that they needed to. I got the answers that I needed to. Then the next book that I read is The Prince and The Dressmaker by Jen Wang, which I gave 5 stars to. This is a graphic novel that has been on my TBR for such a long time, and I kind of forgot about. So I'm very happy that Book Couple of Time kind of pushed me to read this one, because I absolutely adored this. So this is like a page. I really love the art style in this. I really liked the story of this as well. I thought it was so interesting to like see both of these characters and like their aspirations, their goals, and how like they were very separate things but like also connected together really well. And I like how they kind of encouraged each other to like follow their dreams. And I really loved these 2 characters and the dynamic that they had together and the relationship they ended up developing. I just thought was so cute. But like overall, I do think this is like a happy, fun, heartwarming story, and I would really recommend it. If you haven't heard about it yet, like definitely like go check it out. Then next I read Angelike, Frankenstein Mix and Match by Thorne, which I gave 5 stars to, and as a guy I got from NetGalley. I was really hyped for this book because it sounded wild and fun and a bit over the top. And turns out this was just too over the top. This did not work for me at all. It just got too weird for me. It did not work. And from what I've seen from reviews, like you'll either love this brand of weirdness or you'll just like me and like no. Absolutely not. It's just way too much. And yeah, that's what ended up happening for me. The main reason why I just did not like this book is because I did not buy the romance. The romance just felt so weird and icky and like borderline like non-consensual. I know that was not the intention of the book, and there wasn't like a actual point where something non-consensual happens, but it does feel that way for me. And I don't know how to explain it properly without like going into like detail and like spoilers and stuff like that, but it did. It's also very insta love, which absolutely did not help with the non-consensual vibes I was getting. I thought the main character was insufferable, like so insufferable. And then the second half of this book takes a really religious twist, which, you know, I don't mind religion in books, but like the way this one was just like religion is the only way. If you're an atheist, you're evil, you're bad. That just whipped me the one way, and I no. So let's immediately move on to another to a popular book that I did not like, and that's Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas, which I gave 2 to 5 stars to. I feel like if I'm gonna critique this book, you're gonna think I just don't like age gap romances. That's not the case. I do. I just think the way it was handled in this book was just so icky, and I did not like it. First of all, we have 2 main characters who behave insanely immaturely, which if you're gonna do such a huge age gap, because the girl is 19 and the guy is in his 30s, I believe. I don't remember his exact age. Yeah, he's 38. So she's 19, he's 38. That's such a massive age gap, and she's so young. Like, if she was a little bit older, things could have gone differently. But like, because she's so young, I feel like having both of these characters be so immensely immature just did not work for it. And on top of that, I feel like all of the conflict in this book is about the fact, like, for their relationship, is about the fact that she is dating his son. Like, that's the main conflict, and like, we shouldn't be together. Well, your main conflict, like, that should be a part of it, but like, your main conflict should be, fuck, she's 19 and I'm 38, you know? That should cross your mind sometime. Well, that's never a thing. Even though her age and how she's just a kid gets mentioned so many times, and he keeps referring to her as kid constantly, and it just made it feel so icky and gross, and I did not like it. And then on top of that, I even if these characters were the same age, I still would have liked their romance, because I feel like they were so like possessive and hypocritical and just dysfunctional. Like, honestly, like, all of the conflicts they have together, like the little fights they have, they don't properly get resolved. It's just like big romantic gesture with no like actual talking about what went on here. And then on top of that, this book is also like really misogynistic, like very, very much so. Like, there's so much misogyny in this book that gets brushed over as like normal and like alright, and it wasn't nice to read. So yeah, this wasn't a 1-star for me though, because there were some cute scenes between them. I do think there were some moments that were well done, and overall I like Penelope Douglas' writing style. I am very open to reading more of their books, but this just was not for me. And then next I read It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, which I gave 4 to 5 stars to. This one I loved. So going from one popular romance to another, I was always scared that, you know, this could be another miss, but it was not. It was not at all. This was really good. It wasn't perfect for me. I did have like not really issues with it, but it just wasn't like a 5-star read for me. But overall, I did really enjoy this. I really liked our 2 main characters. I thought they had a great dynamic together. Like, I instantly loved their dynamic together. I just thought it's such fun banter together, fun back and forth. And like, technically this is a hate to love situation, but like, the hate doesn't really last long. They like have this like instant attraction to each other almost, and I really like how that kind of plays out. I really like them like figuring out relationships, because they do have like some issues, personal issues going on that maybe make it a little bit harder to like be in a relationship, but like they work that out together. I really like how that was done. I really like the personal journeys they go on, like even besides the relationship in his book. The main thing I did not like in this book actually is the third act conflict. I was not a fan of it, because it hinges so much on them not talking to each other, which, you know, miscommunication is like a very present thing in third act conflicts, but we have established early on in this book that these people communicate with each other, they talk to each other. That's like the only way they're getting through their issues together, is with them with each other, being very open about what's going on in their mind. And then you hinge the whole conflict on the fact that they're not talking to each other. It just felt not right. Then next I read The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D, which I gave 5 stars to, and as a Gallic from NetGalley. This I did not know a lot about going into this, except knowing that it was a Carrie retelling, which does not mean a lot to me, because I also don't know a lot about Carrie. So I honestly think this is the best way to go into this book, just not knowing a lot about it, because it is such a wild ride to go on, and I love how this like kind of slowly builds. Like, we have this kind of like dual timeline going on, where we have, of course, the main story, which is like the Carrie retelling, but like throughout it we have like bits and pieces from like this podcast that was made about like this case, or this book that was written about it, and like different testimonies from characters like as we get more towards the ending. And I feel like that was so interesting to see like this thing play out, and then like also see people's perceptions of it and like theories and stuff like that, because like nobody knows the whole truth. And I really liked seeing all of those things alongside like the actual story of what actually happened. I also really liked how that story was also told through so many different perspectives, and even through like perspectives of people that are absolutely vile and not good people, and it's not like those perspectives are trying to like make you sympathize with that character. It's just like a different perspective to tell the story, and I thought all of that was done so interestingly. And I binge read this. I read this in one go almost. Like, this book did not let me go, and I thought it was so phenomenally written. And next we're going to be a little bit more lighthearted with The Switch by Beth O'Leary, which I gave 5 stars to. I don't have a lot to say, but it was fine. I feel like from most reviews for Beth O'Leary, I've heard like The Fletcher is amazing, and then like her other books are not. And that has made me a little bit hesitant to read more books by her, because I liked The Fletcher, but like I didn't love it as most people seem to. Like, that was still a 4-star read for me, don't get me wrong, I didn't really like it. But you know, if the consensus is love, hate, I was a little bit scared to go into the rest of her books. But having read this one, I didn't hate it, but I do definitely get the disappointment of Fletcher. It's more romance, or it's more like women fiction-y, more like contemporary fiction. It's not necessarily like very romance heavy. But I felt fine about this book. I do not really have a lot of strong feelings towards this book either way. It wasn't terrible, it also wasn't great. Not a whole lot happens in it. It's mainly like focused on these characters and their progression, like development. And I did really like that. There are also 2 romances in here that are very, very minor parts of the book, but I thought they were really cute. I really liked the big cast of character in this book as well, like side characters. I feel like they made this come to life. But overall, I just don't think it's like a very memorable story, or one that I'm going to be thinking about a whole lot in the future. And then next, I read A No One Roof by Ali Hazelwood, which I gave 4 stars to. This is the first in a like series of novellas that she wrote. I really enjoyed this one. This takes place over like a longer period of time, where like we have 2 roommates and they kind of don't like each other at the beginning, and they start like falling for each other like over a big span of time. And I really like how this was told. I also do think this could make a great like full-length novel, because I feel like some of the issues I have with this book, one, the fact that it was a novella, because I feel like it wasn't as developed as I would have liked. I feel like there were some things that I would have liked more of, and like character development that I would have liked a little bit more. But overall, I had such a fun time reading this, and I really liked the romance in here. I thought that was so well done, and it gave me the feels, so I can't complain. Then next, I read Stuck With You by Ali Hazelwood, which I gave 5 stars, and this is the second book in that series. And this one I like significantly more. This one definitely works more as a novella than the first one did. Like, everything you need to have in here is in here. I really liked our 2 characters in this one, and I loved how romance is immediately like sold me on like that dynamic together. Like, the first interaction they have just like immediately had me going. This gave me even more feels than the first one. Like, not really more, but like more intensely. And I really love this one until we find out like the big conflict between them and like what that is based around, and that is just like such a miscommunication that is so aggravating, and could have been solved so easily if a character just weren't, or like one of the characters just wasn't so stubborn. So that got me like really frustrated and made me talk as far. And then the last book that I read in September is Hook, Line and Sinker by Tessa Bailey, which I gave 5 stars to. This is the second book in the Belle and Justice series, which of course the first one was It Happened One Summer, which I read early in the month. But I really enjoyed this. I was a bit like nervous going into this one, because even though I liked like little snippets we get of Hannah and Fox and their friendship in the first book, I thought was really cute, but we don't really get a lot of like characters in the first book. So I was a little bit hesitant going into this one, because you know, it could go either way. I could not like them, who knows. But I ended up loving it so much. Like, this is again one that I read very quickly because I was just so engaged by the story. This is also one that gave me all the feels. I literally cried towards the end because I was just so emotionally invested in these characters. I thought it was so well done. I really loved Hannah and Fox as separate people. I loved the journeys they went on, and they both kind of had this journey of like finding more confidence in themselves and like overcoming self-doubt, but like they were very different journeys. But I really liked how it was done and how they were each other's like biggest supporter in those journeys. I really loved that. I also really loved how the relationship ended up developing, how it goes from like these friends with sometimes feelings popping up to, oh shit, I might have a crush on this person, to fuck, I'm in love. I really loved that whole this whole thing around it. I thought they had some amazing moments together, and I just really loved this book. And that was all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of these books, if you've read them, as well as some of the books you read in September. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Good.
Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated? Should've played it cool.